Welcome to the 8 Ways to Wellness. Discover the dimensions of a healthier you. Intellectual well-being. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, has identified 8 dimensions of wellness to focus on to optimize health. Intellectual well-being is one of the 8 dimensions of wellness. The University of Wisconsin-Madison Division of Extension has developed this module based on the work of SAMHSA, along with other research-based resources. Before we get started, let's do a quick icebreaker activity in the form of a riddle. So taking a look at the screen, it says, what am I? I can sizzle like bacon. I am made with an egg. I have plenty of backbone, but lack a good leg. I peel layers like onions, but still remain whole. I can be long like a flagpole, yet fit in a hole. So what am I? Who thinks they know what this is? If you answered snake, that's the correct answer. I am a snake. Now, this is just one example of a riddle which can help stimulate our minds. How many of you enjoy riddles? If not riddles, what about puzzles? Who enjoys complex math problems? Word of the day calendars? Who out there might be a news buff? Often our preferences are determined in our younger years, and we do not give ourselves the opportunity to try things out again. For example, I thought I did not enjoy musicals. Assumed I wouldn't understand them, I wouldn't connect with them, I would get bored easily. This wasn't something I grew up with, so it wasn't something I was very familiar with, but I just didn't think I would like it. Then I studied abroad, and I had this opportunity to try things that I'd never tried before. And I'll say, after my first musical, I was thrilled with that live theater. I learned to appreciate the theater. I learned to appreciate musicals, and actually grew a love for them. They certainly grabbed my attention and, felt like I was taking in a magical ride. And so I assumed I wouldn't understand them. I wouldn't connect with them. I would get bored. Yet here, offering myself this opportunity, I was able to open my eyes, experience something new, and ultimately find that there was a lot of joy in something new. And today we're going to talk about this concept. We're going to talk about a variety of opportunities to increase your intellectual wellness. I encourage you to keep an open mind because it's possible you'll discover that you enjoy something just like I did that you thought you never knew of, that you thought you never would. Now, in contrast to poor health, wellness is the state of living a healthy lifestyle. It's an ongoing process and a lifelong journey, not a one-time event. Wellness is often categorized into several interconnected dimensions. It's this holistic integration of physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. This slide illustrates the 8 dimensions of wellness. There's a need to have balance among all dimensions in order to live your life fully. And finding that balance is a process, and it certainly takes time. However, the balance will look very different for every person depending on your individual beliefs, priorities, aspirations. The goal is to find a personal harmony with the dimensions that are most authentic for you. You can't reach a state of wellness passively. It does require some active awareness, acceptance, and commitment through choices that you make every day, no matter how small. And this really is providing you with the tools and skills to practice as you work toward improving each one of these areas. Now, in today's section, we're focusing specifically on intellectual wellness. When thinking of the word intellectual, what are some words or ideas that first enter into your mind? Intellectual. So some of you may have thought academic, maybe knowledge. Others may be thinking critical thinking. Others may think creativity or engaging in mentally stimulating activities. Now, there can be many components, and we're going to take a deeper dive into today's session. So in today's session, we will be discussing intellectual health and help define what intellectual wellness actually is. We will assess your own creative abilities and the things you currently do, which enhance your intellectual health. And third, we'll look at ways to expand your knowledge and your skills through improved habits and trying new approaches. So what is intellectual wellness? Typically, people do think of intellectual wellness as that academic knowledge that I mentioned earlier, when in fact, stimulating our minds is more than that. Our ability to gather information, use logic, be open to new ideas, and learn new activities can also help expand that knowledge and skills in order to really stimulate our minds. Engaging in creative and mentally stimulating activities keeps the connections or those neurons in our brain firing and can really increase knowledge in the process. Also, allowing ourselves to interact with people of various backgrounds can really open our minds to new ideas. It can expand our creative thought processes and improve our potential for sharing with others. We may also learn things we never even considered before. So finding a balance between one's ability and new opportunities is important, and this does not occur once or a few times in life. Instead, intellectual wellness occurs over the span of our lifetime. I mentioned earlier that our overall wellness is a process. Each dimension is a part of that process. For example, has anybody ever heard the saying, "How do you eat an elephant?" So the answer is, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So recognizing that here is very, very important. Now, there are many benefits to enhancing our intellectual wellness. Intellectual wellness involves many things that keep our brains active and our intellect expanding. Stronger minds and more resistance to decline related to dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Obtaining and maintaining intellectual wellness leads to lifelong learning, healthier habits, improved critical thinking and creativity, and leads to new ideas, activities, and opportunities. And we're going to talk about each of these points a little bit more in depth. So lifelong learning may involve self-initiated learning. It could be daily reading, keeping up on current events. One's knowledge can make for small or large accomplishments. For example, the knowledge of medicine by Hippocrates saved the lives of many in the world. And now, although that's a large scale example, it's just one example of how somebody really made a big difference. Development of good study habits and study skills, time management can really enhance one's memory power, ability to recall, and improve concentration. Also, those improved critical thinking skills can improve problem solving and coping skills, so important in our day-to-day life. Next is the development of our own ideas, our own views and opinions, and the ability to make logical connections. This is not about performing well in class, but collecting on knowledge and applying it in the real world. We often see that this is a lost knack, right? But being able to apply that knowledge in the real world is so very important. It's important also to expose ourselves to new ideas, remaining open to people and beliefs that are different from our own. And it's a strength, really, to have the ability to change ourselves to see all sides of an issue. Always remaining curious for more can lead to some pretty surprising discoveries. For example, who knows how Newton came upon the law of gravity? So Newton found the law of gravity as he was curious to know how that apple fell to the ground. So you might amaze yourself as to being curious about a certain thing and checking into that a little bit further, just where that might get you. We also enhance our intellectual abilities by engaging in hobbies, and how we express ourselves through our hobbies could include self-expression through the arts, which can often help us feel good about ourselves and really improve those positive attitudes towards life. Now, the arts is just one example. There's plenty of other examples out there. Increasing one's intellectual wellness can leave us curious for more, much, much more. In the process, you may discover community resources and local and distant opportunities that you never knew existed. And this could cause one to develop a great interest in the world around them. As a side note, if any of you have ever traveled, that's an example of where that can be very contagious, right? In the process, you discover what's out there and you seek more. You want to travel more, you want to see different areas and spaces, and it leaves you very curious for what else is out there. And now that we've identified intellectual wellness and some of the benefits, where do you fall in terms of your personal intellectual wellness? When considering your personal intellectual wellness, consider these 10 self-assessment statements that you see on the slide to help gauge where you're at. Think of this self-assessment as having a curiosity and a desire to learn while valuing your life experiences. So if you want to take a look at these 10 self-assessment questions, feel free to grab a piece of paper and jot down 1 through 10. And I'm going to talk about the following in terms of scoring. So I'll give you a second to grab a piece of paper and a pencil. Again, go ahead and jot down 1 through 10 on that piece of paper. Now, as you read through these statements, you would answer 1 if the statement is something you've never considered before. 3 if the statement is something that you do some of the time. And 5 if the statement is part of your regular routine. And of course, then 2 and 4 kind of fall somewhere in between those descriptions. So using that 1 to 5 scale, go ahead and grade yourself on each 1 through 10 of these items. In doing this activity, you may notice some areas that you're strong in and areas you could improve in. But go ahead and get started, and I'll give you a few seconds here to go through. Okay, so as you finish up here, did this activity open your mind to ideas for self-improvement? Do you see areas maybe that you were low on the scale? Maybe areas that surprised you where you were higher than you thought? During the activity, you may have noticed that you have room for improving your learning skills, or you found that you could expose yourself to new ideas or new things, maybe new things to do in your community. The value of this self-assessment is that it can also serve as an opportunity to set personal goals for improvement. We will come back to this idea at the end of this session today, so keep this in mind. If the self-assessment activity helped you realize that you have room for growth as you look to find ways to expand knowledge and skills, consider these areas for improving that intellectual wellness. First, consider personal interests. You can always get social through taking part in things that personally interest you. When you interact with others, you get a boost of well-being. When we connect with others who have common interests and work toward the same goals, this could be weaving a basket, it could be volunteering, reading a book, various opportunities, right? And we create that sense of belonging. Belonging is critical to our overall health. Secondly, we have education. Give your brain something to think about through educational opportunities. Education in the broadest sense means learning something new. It doesn't have to be that class or formal education, right? So keeping that in mind. We also have brain exercises. Let your brain learn something new or exercise your brain with some challenging activities. Exercising our brains can help it stay more flexible, the same as what you do with your muscles and your tendons and your ligaments when you're stretching your body. We can do that same thing by really using our brains. So complex thinking activities like multiplication tables, for example, can even assist people in anxiety loops because our brain is forced to focus upon the task at hand, breaking that anxiety cycle. Finally, we have conversations. This could include befriending people who can really stimulate our minds, which can be both exciting and it can help to boost intellectual intelligence. Find people to talk to that are different than you and consider their thoughts and their perspectives. Challenge yourself to join as many conversations as you're comfortable with, first as a listener and then as a speaker. Through a number of activities, from learning about current events to organizing games night in your home or community center, you can really broaden your perspective and understand diverse points of view. This slide really shows some examples of activities that can offer that intellectual benefit. In asking yourself, is this for me? Also consider whether or not these activities are accessible and available for you in your home or in your community. For example, let's consider teaching a class or leading a workshop based on skills, knowledge, and experience you have. What resources would you need to follow through with that activity? An example could be that you have to first find a community group or an organization where you could teach that class or workshop or lead that discussion. Another thing may be that you need to practice up on some of your skills to lead that shop and prepare, right? So many different things that go into this. You could also ask yourself, do you enjoy reading? Books, magazines, blogs? Now, in that example, what community resources may be helpful to pursuing those activities? Examples could be considering becoming a member at a local public library, joining a book reading club, locating some book share dispensaries in your community, various opportunities and options out there. If you're interested in creative arts, what are some examples of creative arts that you could or might consider? Examples could be drawing, pottery, photography, music. In order to pursue such activities, you may explore public events in your community by checking out the events section in the newspaper or search for those local classes being offered. Are you keeping your mind sharp by playing brain games? We talked about brain games. And what are some examples of those brain games or those mind teasers or those fun memory enhancing games? So considering examples of brain games might be crossword puzzles, Sudoku, maybe regular puzzles, Scrabble. There's also websites out there like Games for the Brain. And that's a website you could research and check into other opportunities and options out there. Now, this list and these examples just show really a handful of ideas to keep our brains active and our intellect expanding. Finding what works for you and what interests you is the next step. In considering some ways to improve your intellectual health, make a plan of action to improve and maintain your intellectual wellness. You may even want to refer to the self-assessment that we just did earlier to help guide you in thinking of areas of self-improvement. Now, when doing this activity, consider the tips that we provided throughout this section in order to create your own personal action plan. The sooner you try out the item from your list, the sooner you will find new excitement and confidence in your overall improved wellness. So when doing this activity, you'll consider what will I do and what will I need, similar to the examples we provided earlier. Thank you to everybody for your awesome participation today. I hope you have a better understanding of intellectual wellness, your own intellectual strengths, and the ways you can expand on your own intellectual knowledge and skills. Have a great day.